Welcome to Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central. This video profiles the key features of the module, which are Dynamics 365 Business Central integration, help availability, assisted setups, module configuration, employee configuration, dimension allocations, processing pay advices, general ledger integration, net pay worksheet, reversing pay advices, single touch payroll, superannuation payment, and reporting. Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central is contained entirely within Business Central, therefore providing users with the same look and feel they are familiar with. HR and payroll administrators can utilize the Payroll Role Center as their Business Central homepage, providing quick and easy access to all payroll functions. The user will be able to access any other area of Dynamics 365 Business Central that their permissions allow by simply performing a search for their area. Alternatively, the user can explore all business features available in Business Central and make the selection from the list provided. Implementation of Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central is easy with assisted setups. These assisted setups take the user through what is required to be completed for each section and in some cases allow the user to load commonly used details such as tax scales, pay items, and entitlements that can then be added or amended as required. For more sophisticated payroll configurations, remote or on-site consulting services are available. For more information about these services, speak to your Business Central service provider. As is the case with other pages in Dynamics 365 Business Central, all payroll pages contain tooltips which provide a brief explanation of the data that is required in the field. If further information is required, the user can access the specific section of the menu that relates to the page that they are on by pressing Ctrl and F1 keys at the same time. If the above information still does not provide the user with what they are after, they can contact our dedicated payroll support team via support@liveware.com.au, who will promptly respond to their request. Once the module has been configured, then the payroll process should occur with minimum errors. Following is information about the different areas that are required to be configured before the user can enter employee details or commence processing pays. The payroll year section allows the user to enter details of the financial year that the payroll is to be processed for, along with the key thresholds that are used when performing certain tax calculations. The payroll frequency section allows the user to enter details of how often employees are paid, for example weekly or fortnightly. For each payroll frequency, the user is then able to specify the start and end dates of the respective payroll periods for the payroll frequency and payroll year. The entitlement section allows the user to enter details of which entitlements an employee is entitled to receive at their place of employment. A GL account can be allocated if the user requires a dollar value for the entitlement to be recorded in the chart of accounts along with the percentage of the employee's pay rate that is to be used to determine the dollar value. The user also is able to specify if the entitlement relates to long service leave and/or is to be allocated to casual employees. The entitlements group section allows the user to configure details of different sets of entitlements that employees may receive. For example, some employees may receive 4 weeks annual leave, while others may receive 5 weeks annual leave a year. For each entitlement group, the user is then able to specify how the value of the entitlement is to be calculated and the quantity they are to receive each year. The pay item section allows the user to configure details of what employees are paid. These can be broken down into 5 main types and can have one of 4 different calculation types. Each pay item can be allocated to a GL account and details of how the pay item is to be taxed can be set. From the pay item, the user can also specify the details of where the payment is to be reported when it comes to single touch payroll. From the pay item, the user is also able to specify what impact, if any, that it is to have on entitlements. Along with the dollar value entered against the pay item is to be classified as ordinary time earnings when determining the super liability amount. If the pay item type is superannuation, then the additional details can be set for that pay item, including where the dollar value is to be reported when the payment of the superannuation liability is performed. The payroll category section allows the user to split payroll details into different areas to reflect the structure of the business. This split can be achieved by either applying dimensions or different GL accounts than those set on the pay items or entitlements. Both options can be applied if required. The tax scales section allows the user to configure details of the coefficients that are used when calculating the amount of tax that is to be withheld from the employee's pay. These details are provided by the Australian Taxation Office and variations can be added if required. The Payroll Setup section allows the user to configure details that will be used throughout the payroll process. These details relate to the GL accounts that are used as clearing accounts, along with the key rates and pay items that will be used when calculating tax, as well as default number series and batches that will be used. The Superannuation Fund section allows the user to enter details of the funds where contributions are to be made on behalf of your employees, along with the details of the clearinghouse that the company uses. Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central makes use of the base employee card in order to track name, address and contact details along with the tax file number and commencement date of the employee. As a result, the user still has access to the standard features that are available, such as qualifications, relatives and the like. To enter payroll related information, select payroll details, which then will allow the user to enter information such as the employment status, entitlement group, default payroll category and the salary and rate details. The user can then also enter details about how the employee is to be taxed, which super fund they belong to, and the details to lodge a TFN declaration through Single Touch Payroll. By accessing employee standard pays, the user will be able to enter details of regular payments that are made to the employee to save time during the payroll process. The Employee Bank Account section allows the user to configure which bank accounts the employee wishes to have their net pay paid into. If required, the net pay can be split into multiple bank accounts based upon either a value or a percentage split. The ability to allocate dimensions to specific areas is available within Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central. Dimensions can be assigned to the payroll category, which will then be transferred through to the pay advice and payroll journals when the category is entered. These values can then be amended if required. Dimensions can also be added to the employee standard pay. Any dimensions that have been allocated to the employee and or the payroll category will be populated when the respective details are entered into the standard pay and can be amended if required. These dimensions will then be transferred to the respective pay advice lines when they are created. To process a payroll, the user will then have to run the Create Pay Advice function. This will allow the user to specify details of the payroll period that is to be processed. Additional filters can be applied if pay advices are only to be created for a selection of employees. Once the required details have been entered, select OK to start the process. This will then create a pay advice document for each active employee that meets the criteria set. From the pay advice list, the user can then amend the details that have been transferred to the pay advice or add new details. Once all information has been entered, the user can then release the pay advice, which will calculate any entitlement, superannuation or taxation details that relate to the items being paid. If the user finds a mistake, they can simply reopen the pay advice and make the required changes. When the pay advices have been released, the user can then run a report which will provide details of the pays that are being processed. This will allow the user to review the payroll for any mistakes that have been made during the data entry. The final part of the process is to post the pay advices. When a pay advice is posted, details of the employee's net pay are transferred to the net Pay Worksheet. A posted pay advice is created, and payroll and general ledger entries are generated. When the pay advice is posted, general ledger entries will be generated based upon the GL account details set for pay items, entitlements, and within the payroll setup. These entries will be grouped by GL account and dimension set ID for each pay advice that is posted. Each entry will have a generic posting description which contains no mention of the employee, thereby maintaining data integrity. From the general ledger entries, the user can navigate to the payroll ledger entries and posted pay advices to review the details of each of these. In order to process the net pays for the employees, the user would next go to the net pay worksheet. From here, the user has the ability to create an ABA file that can be uploaded to a financial institution. Once the file has been successfully uploaded, the user can then transfer the details on the net pay worksheet to a payment journal, which will record the payment out of the nominated bank account. Now that the user has completed the payroll process, they are able to generate a pay advice. This document can be provided to employees to show them what has been processed for the pay period. As this document refers to the ledger entries that have been created, if the pay advice is reprinted for an earlier period, it will display all the details present at that time. If the user realises they have made an error on an employee's pay advice, the reverse pay advice function is able to be run from the payroll journal. This will allow the user to enter details of the pay advice that has been processed in error and optionally recreate the pay advice so changes can be made. Once the payroll journal has been posted, payroll and general ledger entries will be created. The original pay advice will be flagged as reversed and the new pay advice will be available in the pay advice list for editing. In conjunction with our sending service provider, the user is able to submit the single-touch payroll reporting directly from Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central. This is done by entering the details of the period that the user wishes to report and then selecting OK. An email response will be received from our sending service provider to advise of the status of the submission. Functionality is available within Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central to meet the superannuation obligations. This is done by firstly processing a payment to record the fact that the liability has been paid. Once the payment is posted, the user is then able to generate a file in the SuperStream alternative file format that can be uploaded to a superannuation clearinghouse. There are two main reports which provide details of the transactions that have been processed within Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central. The first report is the Posted Pay Items report, which provides an overview of the pay items that have been paid. This report can be run for a selected payroll year and additional filters can be added if required. The details of the report are displayed in three columns: Net Change, which displays the movement that has occurred for the date range set; Balance at Date, which displays the balance at the last date of the range set; and Payroll Year, which displays what has been processed for the selected payroll year. The second report is the Posted Pay Items by Employee report. The details of this report are displayed in the same format as the Posted Pay Items report in relation to net change, balance at date, and payroll year details. The main difference is the information provided is split by employee, therefore allowing the user to review what an individual has been paid. This report can be further broken down to show the details of the payroll category that the employee is worked against. The other report that is available is the Employee Details report. This will allow the user to generate a report that provides details about what has been entered for an employee. The user has the option to display payroll, standard pay, and/or bank account details on the report. I hope this video has provided an understanding of the functionality that is available within Payroll for Dynamics 365 Business Central. If you have any queries, please email our sales team at inquiries@liveware.com.au and they will be able to assist you further.